Leslie with Turtle Bay Naturals Handmade Soap, and today we're going to talk a little bit about how I make soap here, and I use the cold process method and the various different methods that we have. And then I'm also going to briefly talk about maybe how Pioneer Grandma made her soap back in the day, and why my soap is better and why it won't bite you like Grandma's soap did. Table, I have a few of my tools represented that I like to use when I make soap. There's 3 different ways primarily to make soap. There's the cold process method, there's the hot process method, which we don't use here, and then there's typical melt and pour, which you can find at any local craft store. And we do make some of those glycerin soaps. So the cold process method is how Grandma probably made it. Not Pioneer Grandma, but Grandma probably made soap. We have the benefit though of a lye calculator, so that's why my soap won't bite you, so we're not lye heavy. And some of the tools that we use are a mixing bowl, a stick blender, and a scale. And of course safety always comes first. I use my goggles when I blend, and gloves. So what typically happens is I get all my fats, and my fats are my choice, which are either olive oil, coconut oil, palm oil. Those are very popular oils. So you get your fats, and you get your lye water solution, which has all been pre-measured out via a calculator, and you put everything together when it comes to the right temperature, and you blend it with your stick blender. And I pour it into a mold similar to this, and it's kind of thick like instant pudding after you've blended it for a few minutes. After about 24 hours, my recipe, I can pop my loaf out, and this is what a bar of soap or a loaf of soap looks like, and this is what my soaps look like. And then eventually, after a few days, I will cut them to the size that I desire, and I let my soaps cure for 4 weeks. No soap leaves my house before then, because I feel that the longer the soap sits and cures, the better it is. These are some examples of fragrances or essential oils that I use, that you can come and sniff if you'd like, or pass around. You can put anything you want into soap. You can put clays, you can put calendula petals, any type of herb that you want. You can put colorant. I use natural colorants. They're powders, minerals derived from the earth. And some of my soaps aren't even colored. So Pioneer Grandma did not have the benefit of a scale, a nice lovely scale. And how she got her lye, I use sodium hydroxide, which produces a harder bar, but when you leach lye from wood ash, it actually produces something called, it's called potassium hydroxide, which makes a softer soap. So if I wanted to make liquid soap, I would use potassium hydroxide instead of sodium hydroxide. So Pioneer Grandma had potassium hydroxide, which is leached from the lye, and they had these really neat wooden contraptions. And you know, Pioneer people didn't waste anything. So when they were done burning their wood, it had to be hardwood, something like apple. And they would burn it, and they would take their white ash and they would store it in these buckets outside the house. And when they had enough, they would get their rainwater, which was lovely soft water, and they would go through this method of pouring the water over the ash, and the water, the liquid that came through at the bottom, had lye in it. So they would use that lye water to make their soap. Now, typically, if you were just a regular person living back in the Pioneer days, you probably made your soap in the spring due to the fact that you use all your animal products over winter, saving your lard or your fat, and then whatever you've collected over winter, you would then make your soap in the spring, because it was a stinky process and lengthy process, and you would typically make it outside. However, if you're a butcher, then you probably made your soap in the spring. Again, outdoor, but you've cut up everybody's meat and now you have your fat. So that's the short version of the story of how Pioneer Grandma probably made her soap, and how and why we are able to make really lovely bars of soap for you today. Okay, well, once again, I use the cold process method, which requires me to get a recipe of exact measurements of all the fats that I want to use. And a lot of my soaps contain coconut oil, palm, olive oil, castor oil, some really yummy things. And then you need your lye water mixture. Again, everything is pre-measured and figured out on a website for you. You just enter in what oils you want to use and then what percentages, and it all figures it out for you. I put that all together and I stick blend it like instant pudding, and I bring it to what's called trace. Trace is just a fancy word for how thick do I want my instant pudding to be. And it depends on every recipe. So some recipes are different, however I want to create them. Then I go ahead and take my instant pudding and I will put it into a soap mold, and I will allow it to sit for a day. If I'm making a Castile soap, that might take 4 or 5 days before I can pop it out of here. And Castile soap is 100% olive oil. So here I have a blend of oils, but Castile truly is just olive oil. And I notice a lot of soaps on the market that call themselves Castile that have other oils in it, and it's not a true Castile. Once I pop my soap out of there, then I will go ahead and cut them into my bars, and I will let them sit on my drying racks for at least 4 weeks. And the longer the bar sits, the better the bar is. It really is a much better bar. But as it sits on the rack curing, for the first couple of days, it goes through a phase called saponification, and it's basically where the oil and lye come together and create soap. So once that happens, there is no longer oil in my bar and there is no longer lye. It is now soap. So in our tents, you can also find bath bombs. You can find sugar scrubs, and you can find lotion bars. We make all different sorts, and there's actually a ton of recipes on the website for people to go and find. It's very easy to make yourself. There are a lot of different recipes out there, and just like is in the same with soap, and every soap is as individual as the craft